Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Sutton United Talk Time on podcast, the Sutton podcast. It's been a while, it's been about 170 weeks, so if you have been waiting with bated breath, I do apologise. But here we are, we've got another one. In an act of amazing continuity, I have also picked up another cough, just the same as I had in the last one, so I do this for you. So it just now sounds exactly the same as it was before. Joining me in this first one of this new season, we have got Jenny, Joe and Andy. No particular order there, just the order they joined the call in. I just want to say hello to all of you and thank you for joining me. We're going to start off with the very cheesy Who Are Ya? So here we go. So we'll start with Jenny. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your Sutton United history.
Right. Well, my name's Jenny. I'm not the giraffe. I'm not the mascot. But my dad, I used to live in Hilldale Road, which is the road by the Plough pub. Grew up until I was 8 in Hilldale Road. And when I was 5, my dad, who a lot of people know down the club, Bert or Albert Corkett, who was stewarding and various other things down there. Many people know he passed away 2 days after we were promoted. But he took me when I was 5. I'm now old. And always supported them my whole life. When I was working in various guises, obviously I didn't get down to the club as much as possible. But I now live in Swindon for my sins and... at the moment I go to every home and away match. I've only missed one, and that was against Portsmouth. But I retired early once we got promoted, and now go to every match that I can get to. And that's me, roughly.
Excellent, lovely. We certainly do remember Albert. I'm pretty sure he's told me off a few times over the years when I was younger as well. But we'll skip over that. Joe, how about yourself?
I've been going since the mid to late 80s. I'd say on and off. My dad first took me down like most people, really. And I couldn't tell you what my first game was, but he was rifling through some old programmes the other week, funnily enough, and found the one where I was massed, got against Crawley and Town. 91, when I proudly declared myself an avid stamp collector, but I'm not sure I've ever found one since. Like I say, I was going. It was a great place to go as a kid. Teenage years send you wayward, and having a little one of my own dragged me back very much around the start of the Doz era, really, and regular since then. And I told my son when we drew Arsenal in the cup, just remember this, because you'll never see anything quite like this, and here we are. And I suppose that's me, really.
Yeah, excellent. I mean, I do know lots of people remember their first game vividly, but I'm similar to you. I remember going, and I've dug out the programmes, go, oh, that was the game, but I don't remember an awful lot about it. I know we won, and that's probably why I came back. I know Lenny scored, but that was it. And Andy, how about yourself?
Well, I'm Andy. I'm Sutton born and bred. I still live in Sutton. Although people that know me probably know that my family history isn't from Sutton. I come from Cyprus. But I remember vividly going to my first game. It was, I believe, early September 1987. We played Boston United in the then GM Boxer Conference, and old school friend of mine, a guy called Paul Eldridge, said, "Do you fancy coming to a Sutton game?" And I went, "Yeah, right, why not?" I think in those days, for your under 16s, as I was at the time, I think it was about £3 or £4 to get in, something like that. And we lost 2-1. And I remember, I think Vernon Pratt made his debut that day as a substitute. But yeah, so went in '87, went for a few games then, and managed to get very early on in my Sutton career the Aldershot game and the Middlesbrough game, which was quite nice. And I've been a Sutton fan ever since. I had a big gap, like many people do, because life kind of gets in the way. But I'd say probably since about 2004, I missed about 5 or 6 games a season. So I have my plans for Rochdale this weekend and Colchester, which I'm sure we're going to be talking about in a bit.
Yep. Excellent. Well, I'm similar with that gap. I do remember, I did have to look it up because I moved to this area, and at the time I was kind of 13, 14 and realising that football was something you should really watch properly, not just when TV show it. And I used to support Man United as a kid because all my uncles and everyone supported London clubs. So I decided that I wasn't going to do that. And Man United had a load of Irish players, so I decided I'd support them. And I stopped supporting Man United, and this is very, very important. And I started supporting Sutton back in '88, which coincides nicely with when Alex Ferguson took over Manchester United. And obviously I missed all that. But I came to Sutton after going to Carshalton. I'd been to Tooting and Mitcham. And literally one day I just turned up at Sutton, and I was there really early because I didn't know where the place was. And the lady that was on the gate kind of realised I was new, and she brought me in and took me around, got me a free programme and a free drink and a free Mars bar, and I'm pretty sure the money's gone back into the club many times over the years, but it was me hooked because I got free stuff. And as I say, we won, and Lenny, I'm fairly sure Lenny scored that day because I loved him for a long time, still do. So what I'm going to quickly do is something I thought was a brilliant idea, as most of my ideas are really brilliant until I come to do it. So I just wanted to do a little bit on this past week or so, and the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I've picked up the sound bit for it, so I'm going to play it, whether you like it or not. Yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to carry on with that. But anyway, so this week, what would you guys say was the good of this past week?
For me, the good was the build up to the match on Tuesday. I actually, because I'm living in Swindon, people thought it was a bit cocky, but I made sure that I wore all my Sutton t-shirts and the ones where we won the league, and walking around the town and that. I did get a few looks, but no one ever approached me. But I thoroughly enjoyed making sure all the people I used to work with who are Swindon supporters, and there was quite a lot, lots of banter was going on, but the good, absolutely loved it. They knew I was looking forward to this match, and that was the good, just the build up from after Crawley, really. I started it the moment I got back from Crawley, and it carried on right up until the match and beyond, as you can imagine, but that wasn't so much the good.
No.
But it was that, yeah.
Joe, for you, the good?
Well, for me, I was going to say the return to form is not even the last week necessarily, but Dean was on in last week. Obviously, saving a penalty against Crawley, but there's a couple of cracking saves he made. One right at the end as well, tipping it over the bar. And Arsenal, he had a tough start to the season. And, I think that sort of cemented it. The Port Vale game, he made some cracking saves. Obviously we ended up winning that.
Yeah.
Also, I think the penalty kind of put the seal on it, hearing everyone chant his name. I think actually, if I remember rightly as well, was it him at the end of the Port Vale game had a little set who was their assistant?
He did,
along the way. So definitely Dino for me.
Excellent. And Andy?
I actually have to agree. I think Dean Bazalis, he's as Joe quite rightly said, he got quite a bit of stick, probably quite unfairly at the start of the season, particularly after the Forest Green late goal, which for anyone that was there, I mean, anyone who said that they were standing on the terraces and saw that winning goal go in is a complete liar, because it was raining so heavily you couldn't see a thing. There was no way a keeper was going to see that. So it's those examples where he just had he had a bit of bad luck and things didn't quite go his way. But I felt after the Crawley game in particular that it was redemption for him. He played an absolute blinder. He saved the penalty. Okay, the penalty wasn't the best penalty you'll ever see, but it doesn't matter. You've got to save them. And the fact that he did, and really on Tuesday night, there was very little he could have done with either of those two goals. I think certainly on Tuesday night, he kept the score respectable for us at a time where we could have been significantly worse off.
Absolutely. I mean, I kind of said at the time when he was going through the rough patch at the start, he's not a Premier League goalkeeper. He's going to make about 10 or so mistakes a season. and we're just getting them all done early. Let's get it done now, and then we'll have a great season for the rest of the year. But for me, it's definitely the Crawley game. It was actually something else that he did in the Crawley game. It wasn't necessarily the penalty save. It was where he was going absolutely mental and getting everyone worked up and wound up, which I think gave him a little bit of impetus for the last few minutes of the match, which we obviously went on to win it. So I know he got booked for his troubles, and I think that's his third one of the season. But for me, it was Dean, but for a slightly different reason to you guys. Remembering there's two other sections, one the bad, one the ugly. What's the bad for you guys?
I think the standard of the show. And we could have said that at any point over the last, probably as long as we've been going. Obviously, we've got across to bear with the officials, which football fan happens. I don't know, it's probably naive to think that it would have improved necessarily in the National League to the Football League, given that, not too far apart, but I mean, there's been some shocking calls or shocking non-calls.
Yeah.
But then, I stand in an area right behind the linesman, and I'm sure they all love me. They do it just to keep me.
Yeah. Andy, for you, the bad?
Yeah, the bad for me was the first half an hour on Tuesday. I thought we were really just off the pace. Balls were going all over the place. We weren't getting any rhythm together. We were being owned by a strong Swindon side. Mm-hmm. It was. I don't think I've seen us play that badly all season. So I was fearing the worst. But again, credit to the club, they turned it around. The proper Sutton we saw in the second half wasn't enough to get us the result, but again, it was a complete turnaround from that first half an hour, which was really shocking.
Yeah, and Jenny, for you?
Yeah, the bad really is a bit more to do like with the officials. Is I noticed sort of straight away, I think even from the first game, and we got to wise up to it, that it seemed with the opposition, the moment someone just touched them, they went down as if they were poleaxed, and a lot of the referees were falling for it. But it's weird. It's just like we didn't play into that, but when we went down, we didn't seem to get anything. I just noticed that a lot of the opposition players, literally, you just got to touch them, and they go over and they get the free kick. I don't know. I'm trying not to be biased. I don't think I am. I'm not. It's just that it's as if that's what the players do in this league. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's learning how that carries on. Because I know Craig Eastman. Oh, sorry, Craig. No, I know Craig sort of is a little bit more wise to that, and I've seen him sometimes. I think, oh, come on, Craig. But looking at the teams we played, a lot of them literally they just, and I mean that penalty. When not the with Adji Boy when he literally touched, and I think, well, how come the referees don't see that when they that happens with us? But that's quite annoying when just a slight touch of the shirt and they go over like they're poleaxed, and we don't seem to do that, and maybe we need to wise up and do that a little bit more. I don't know.
Yeah, a little bit of game management. I know the first few games of the season we were struggling with that, but I think we are getting slightly better.
Yeah.
Okay, so the ugly. Anyone want to raise the on the still allegations? Because obviously. Yeah,
I know what everyone's going to say. Probably Crawley, isn't it? I mean, yeah.
For me, it wasn't necessarily allegation because yes, it could have been something misheard. Obviously, I don't necessarily believe that, but it could have been. But it's the reaction of people saying no, it didn't happen,
or that he's lying. I mean, that's what I found a bit disingenuous. Is that he's done this before? I mean, I don't know whether it's happened to Kobe before. I must admit, not that I know down at Sutton, but looking at some of their tweets, I found, come on, let someone investigate it as they should, but don't start saying, this is what he does and we're not like that. I'm sorry, but I found that as the ugly, really. I would not really come across it before since I've been down Sutton, and which, not impressed really with it.
Yeah. And guys, similar?
I think it has to be, really. I mean, to be honest, the atmosphere, certainly at the end of the game, Crawley as well, was not positive at all. There there was certainly, as I was leaving the ground, there were some Crawley fans. Obviously, they have their thug element, and they decided to try and start a bit of a ruckus with some of the Sutton players. Luckily, it didn't get to very much, but it was certainly instigated by Crawley.
Yeah.
So, although I didn't hear the incident, obviously it happened at the completely other end of the pitch in a 3,500 however many crowd. My gut feeling is that actually, it probably did happen. And if you're standing in a big crowd and people are cheering and people are making noise, you don't hear the person five along from you.
Absolutely not. The group over, you can't hear them.
Yeah. It's very easy for people to say, "Well, no, I didn't hear it, so it didn't happen."
Yeah.
No, you shouldn't really say that because you wouldn't get a reaction like that.
Yeah.
Certainly, Kobe has not got form of having a reaction like that at all, and it's very, very out of character in terms of his persona, which always comes across as very positive. And this wasn't the point where we were losing the game either. It was a very even game. It wasn't like sour grapes or anything like that. So for me, objectively, I would say it probably did happen. And I really hope that Crawley have taken this seriously and have looked into it in more detail.
The reason why I say I hope it was misheard is I'm a nice person and I don't want to think someone thinks like that. So yes, I would really hope. But his reaction on the pitch, as you say, there was no need for it at that time, and it definitely put him off his game for a good few minutes. We've got nothing to gain from that. So, he definitely heard something, but it was the reaction of everyone saying, "Oh, it didn't happen." That was certainly for me. And Joe, I presume similar, or have you got?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I guess that everyone would say this, and I can only echo those thoughts. To lighten the ugly a little bit, I suppose, I was actually going to say the Johnny Williams goal. I mean, Nick Williams has much more of a claim on this because he's a cult hero for the Welsh, and I am a Welshman from the sins. Nick follows Wales home and away, and like I say, I think he's got much more of a claim to me on this. He's seen him a lot more than me. At least he's seen him score for Wales. I've been waiting to watch him. So cracking goal, but obviously it was a pass the other night.
Very mixed feelings on that. I know you don't.
We could always just say that the ugly is Johnny Williams.
So we've kind of covered some of this, but have we got any more to add on the Crawley match? Obviously, fighting spirit. We dug deep again. But anyone got any more to add to it?
Not a great deal, like you said. I think it also. I mean, it's only my second away game for the season. It's Cardiff earlier. I haven't been to any of the league home games, but from what I hear and the limited highlights that I've seen, it's been about us not taking chances and letting silly ones in, or otherwise. And I think that was evidence of a lesson learned at Crawley.
Yeah, I think it was the other way around there. We were battling and you weren't going to score, and then we went and nicked it at the end. I actually thought it was an own goal because the way it looped up off the defender and the keeper jumped up, I thought it was an own goal. And I ended up being, because my friend was a bottle job and he didn't want to stand with you lot, so we ended up being in the home section. So I saw it go in and I kind of just quickly buried my head because I thought, I can't celebrate this. But yeah, no, that was a definite good game. Swindon, I mean, we kind of covered it. As Andy said, the ball was just not sticking to our players. It was bouncing away from everyone. We were just not there, and it felt very, very flat. I was surprised when we scored, and I did think we can't ever do this coming back from 2-0 down again. It doesn't happen that often. You can't do it a couple of weeks apart. But yeah, as you say...
So it was very, very windy the first half, and I felt that a lot of the passes were, they were hit too hard, or so they didn't sort of control the wind as well. And I said to someone in the second half, I said, that wind's gone now. That it wasn't as windy the second half, but I felt there was a lot of passes that, when we had a corner and it went right over everyone's head, and the accuracy didn't seem to be there. Against Swindon. But what I do like, and it's the same for Crawley, is I'm not saying we never in the past, but they don't give up until the final whistle. the spirit there is I feel something is from last season probably as well, but they really don't give up until the whistle's gone, and that's great to see, really.
It's interesting you say something about the spirit. Oh, sorry, Joe, go on.
No, I was just going to agree. I mean, like you said, I think it was, I can't remember who it was now, said bad, obviously, human collarbone particularly. Because, I suppose another good would be the competition for places as well. We kept, as we know, most of the squad. Dutyman probably would never have come out of that team if he hadn't had COVID. You got Ali Smith who comes in and does a cracking job, gives himself no reason to be dropped. Then he turns out, Dutyman comes back in and he's man of the match at Crawley. And I thought, for the 60, 70 minutes, whatever it was, he was on the pitch on Tuesday night, was man of the match. And I think we lost something when he came off. That's nothing against John Barvin. I thought he did a good job. Good to see him back in the middle of the midfield where I think he started when he joined us. But it's don't never say die, isn't it? But like you say, we can't keep doing it from 2-0 down.
Can I disagree here?
Mm-hmm.
I think actually Harry probably didn't have a very good start to the season. Not necessarily Harry's fault. I mean, Harry's had a difficult close season. Obviously, he's become a dad again, and obviously it's affected how he plays. But also as well, I mean, certainly from some of the games that I've been to, Scunthorpe's the one that really sticks to mind. Is that Matt played Harry out on the right, I think it was. Or right on the left, on the sides, and Harry naturally is not a wide player; he's a central player. And what we were seeing was that Harry, particularly at Scunthorpe, but also in a couple of other games he played, he kept drifting in, and he was just leaving big gaps for the opponents to actually go up that side. I think he was playing on the right, and he was just leaving big gaps. So I think, as performance-wise, Harry wasn't the Harry that we know and love at the start of the season, and getting COVID also didn't help. So I think he's a quite torrid sign. But I don't disagree whatsoever with your assessment of Harry on Saturday. I think that was the first time this season I've missed 2 games that I've seen the old brilliant Harry back, and he was superb. And he was, again, once the team got going on Tuesday, I thought he was superb again. And I think you were right. We did lose something. That engine room had gone when he went off.
Yeah, definitely. It was described to me by that ratty midfield player that was all over the place against Crawley. And I was like, oh yeah, I know who you mean. I know exactly who you're talking about. So, FA Cup draw, we've got the mighty Hayes and Yedding, which I remember going there many years ago, but they've changed their stadium since, I think, have they?
Is it the one on the industrial estate?
Oh, sorry, one sec.
Sorry.
You're right, Jenny. It is the one on the industrial estate, but
I've been there. Then, yeah,
the same stadium. They've completely rebuilt it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But how do we feel about being the target club now, the big club? It's a bit of a change for us in the FA Cup first round, isn't it?
I think we've been the target since the cup run, though. We saw it against. Did I say it? Billericay. It was. Sorry to remind everyone of that, but I think since then we've been the target club, as I think we were in the early 90s as well. But I remember that less so, having been somewhat younger, I feel. I think it's interesting doing it as a league club now and going straight in at round one, which is nice. But yeah, maybe that puts a difference spin on it. But yeah. I see Salford get the TV touch again.
No, yeah, that's obvious.
Let's not worry too much about what they're doing. And Andy, what do you think of it?
Well, we're playing a club that were at our level 5 years ago, and we're now 3 divisions apart from them. On paper, as we know, I'm trying not to use any cliches tonight. We should batter them, even at their place. But it's the FA Cup. We've seen the other side of the coin. It's very different for us. I think for me, and again, this is going to be quite controversial, and I'm sure people are going to send me messages to say, well, why are you saying this? Is that actually my expectations of cup runs are quite low. And the reason why is because with Doz in charge, Doz had a fantastic ability to G up players for big games. And there's no doubt whatsoever that we would have had an amazing cup run without Doz. And it wasn't just that cup run, we'd actually had a few flirtations, first, second rounds all over the place, because he was very, very good at kind of G'ing up teams in that respect. Doz's weakness in that respect was that whenever we played teams like Maidenhead, who were not big clubs, he found it a lot more difficult to G up teams to play those sorts of games, and therefore we never beat Maidenhead. Matt is a completely different type of manager. He's not the kind of the extremes of Doz. He's very much every game. It doesn't matter who we're playing. Every game, which is always going to be good if you're playing a kind of a lower strength side. So I think we will get through. But I think when we start getting teams that are bigger, it's going to be an even match, and we're probably going to go out. So I'm not going to say that we're going to have a cup run. But I think a team like Hayes and Yedding, however well they are doing this season, because they've still not lost a game, I think we are probably going to still be too strong for them. As long as the team that turns up is not the team that turned up for the first 30 minutes of the Swindon game. If that team turns up, Hayes and Yedding will have every chance of doing a number on us.
And Jenny, anything to add?
Yeah, well, only that obviously you mentioned Doz. Well, of course, he did his magic again last night when they beat Torquay to set up a tie at Charlton Athletic, which, all power to him, really. But, to beat Torquay, I mean, Torquay must love him, because obviously when he was with us, when we used to go to Torquay, we used to beat them quite happily. But no, he done his magic again last night, and good luck to him on that. I'm glad we there's always a threat that we might meet them. But no, Hayes and Yedding, yeah, quite right. We won't have any history of being in the FA Cup as a league side, so it's sort of a blank sheet of paper. And we'll see how that goes. We should beat them. And I'm just depending, in a sense, on... I'm sure Matt will put out the strongest team he can, and the players, I'm sure for them, they'll want to win. And it's an interesting one, really. Interesting one. And I know he wants to go as far as he can for the money, quite rightly. But, interesting. But I should be there. It's easy to get to from Swindon, obviously, just the M4. But... yeah, to me, it's a blank sheet. We're now a Football League side, and we have no history of that in the FA Cup. So we're there to be shot at, like we always are, but it'd be nice for a win.
Excellent. Right. I'm glad you've kind of all mentioned Doz, because I was sitting there thinking, hang on a minute, I've missed a bit. And I meant to talk at the beginning a little bit of filling in some gaps from my 170-week hiatus. So I was going to say, if we could... cover a little bit about thinking back to the 18-19 season. I think a couple of high spots was the Iron Brew Cup. Obviously, the fantastic away trips for me, especially the Dublin one. I made sure I was on that. And I think the other major point there is the loss of Doz that they ended that year. Trying to think back with the eyes at the time, how were we feeling at the time? If you can remember, obviously. Things have changed dramatically since then, so it's time for a bit of honesty.
I can't say a thing about the Iron Brew, by the way, because I was working, so I can opt out of that, because I was working at those and missed all the away matches, which I would have loved to do, but no, I wasn't at any of those matches, so I can opt out of that bit.
Okay.
I didn't go either, Jenny. I have to say, actually, the club did a decent job of putting them on in the bar, and it was, enjoyed part. Not quite the adventure that everyone else had, in fact I know that, but we enjoyed ourselves down there nonetheless. But I mean, on the Doz thing, I mean, I don't know if you were all there that night when he announced it, and it was a strange one in the room. With hindsight, it almost seems an inevitability. I think there was someone who left early, and he made what everyone thought was a joke at the time, saying, "Yeah, I'm leaving yet." It was a strange one at the time and with hindsight. And then I thought the way that it was managed after that was somewhat clumsy and he didn't cover himself in glory, much as we might have liked him to. But we wouldn't be. Well, I say we wouldn't be talking right now. I'm sure we would be in some way, shape, or form. But all
yeah, exactly.
Ultimately, even if it doesn't feel it at the time.
Yeah. Andy, your thoughts? Oh, lost Andy. Andy, you're on mute. Sorry.
Sorry, I was doing my good bit there. I was in Dublin. I went to that game, and I put it down. I mean, I don't normally say this after a defeat, but I put it down as one of my favourite Sutton games ever. Not because of what happened on the pitch. It was I think I can think of 2 games in my 30 plus years of supporting Sutton where I really, really felt that the crowd were completely in unison, and it had such a brilliant atmosphere amongst the crowds. Bohemians was one, and Cardiff this season was the other, and it was just glorious. The fans there were just it was a big adventure for everyone, and it was fantastic. So the Iron Brew Cup was a great distraction, but saying that, it felt like to me that directly after the Bohemians game, it was like somebody switched the light switch off in DOS, and he wasn't quite the same after that as the Sutton sport. Now I know obviously the reasons behind him leaving were completely understandable, and how obviously he found it really, really difficult and was just exhausted. But that to me was the kind of watershed moment where I think a thought came into his head saying, well, actually probably I've done all I can do here. And he was just kind of marking in time. And then obviously, when he brought Matt Gray in, he's obviously kind of doing his succession plan, which I think he obviously did very, very well, as obviously we can say because we're in the league. So when he announced he was leaving, it wasn't a surprise at all. As Joe said, it felt very inevitable at that point. The recruitment of a new manager at the time, and I hands up, admit I'm wrong, it did feel like the Sutton route of the early 90s, and kind of going back to the way of, well, let's just promote from within, or let's make sure that whoever we get in has a connection with Sutton, however good or bad they are. And I could spend the entire podcast talking about Ian Hazel, but I won't. So when Matt was first appointed, I thought, well, I don't actually know anything about this guy to think, yeah or no. Whoever takes that job is going to have a really difficult task. At the time, I thought, well, I prefer someone with a bit of experience of managing at this level. Matt didn't have any. He had some assistant management experience, but as we know, that's a completely different kettle of fish. Yeah. And the start of his reign was very, very difficult, because I think he picked up a lot of players who really didn't want to play for anyone but Doz. Yeah. And Doz got the best out of some of those players, which another manager couldn't get. And there was just a small change, and we're going back to Torquay, when we won that match that basically turned our season round. It was just 2 small changes. It was Jamie Collins not playing and getting Sanoff in goal. I think Jamie Butler's confidence was completely shot at that point, and I think he was struggling more than any goalkeeper I've seen struggle as Sutton's number 1 keeper. And I think Jamie Collins was one of those players that really wanted to play for Doz and didn't really want to play elsewhere. And also, I think time was kind of catching up with him at that point. You can see he was physically getting bigger, not necessarily in a muscular way. And basically, having Louis John and Nick Sanoff in for those 2 was enough for me to turn it around. And actually, that was the point where I thought, Matt can actually kind of shape his own team here. And it went all good from there, really. And then we went on a great run that was curtailed by COVID, and then last season happened. So
yeah, well, for me on the Iron Brew, the trip to Dublin, my overriding memory of it was Bruce in the bar, and as I came in, there were still people behind me. As I came in, he said in this extremely high-pitched voice to someone, I don't know who it was, but literally he was looking out behind going, they're still coming in, there's still more of them. And I was just creasing up, because obviously no one at the club had any idea how many people were going to take to this and come, and it was just, everyone was like, Dublin, yeah, lovely. There were people flying out on the morning, coming back in the afternoon. It was, as you say, it was a great atmosphere, really amazing time, and a nice club to go to as well. They were nice and friendly, that lot. For me, the loss of Doz, obviously, understood completely. 2 hours there, 2 hours home is a bit of a trek for anyone. And then you've got all different times at the club, and it was more of a full-time job than he ever wanted. You're quite right, Joe. It did leave a bit of a taste where he went very quickly to another club, although he did say he was never going to leave football. But it was like, yeah, that was done. If you'd been honest and that deal was done, we would have probably just accepted that anyway. For me, Matt, my biggest disappointment at the time was finding out this Matt Gray wasn't the Matt Gray that played for us.
Yeah. Yeah, that's same.
I was like, hang on, they're two different people. What are you on about?
Yeah.
So, yeah, underwhelmed. But like most of us, willing to give him a chance. And, yeah, as you say, it isn't Sutton's way to just go, right, off you go. And thankfully so. So they were my sort of high and low points of that season. I'm just going to do another really cheesy bit, and I will. Well, basically, what this? Yeah, go on. Sorry, Jenny, go on.
No, can I just add, because I didn't say anything about Dawes.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. I mean, he. I mean, I hadn't even heard of him when he came to the club. You know, I think everyone was who's he? You know, I know that was myself. He did, you know, an amazing amount for he turned it round. I think he said when he first got there, you know, he wanted to put the smile back on people's faces. I mean, he certainly did that. He had his faults. I totally agree with that. You know, the way he left. I could totally understand having always have to drive 2 hours myself. But I didn't do that for perhaps 3 or 4 times a week for 11 years. And I wouldn't have lasted that long. So I had quite a lot of sympathy in that aspect. But I did, what is nice, I do genuinely believe he really has a soft spot still for Sutton. I actually saw him on August Bank Holiday this year when haven't played Chippenham because I'm local or near them. And I went down, he came over and I said, oh, you're happy to speak to a fan of a football league club then, and he had a laugh and we had a chat, and yeah, he's thrilled for what Sutton's doing, you know. And I think if Sutton was nearer to Winchester or he was nearer to Sutton, I think he would have stayed, although I nearly agree that he took us as far on the footballing side as he could, because when I saw Haven't play, that they only had Ross Warner and Tommy Wright in the team, with Jamie Collins on the sideline as a coach, but they played the Sutton way, if I can put it like that, and that wouldn't have been any good for the league. And I'm like you, Matt Gray. I thought it was the Matt Gray, and when I saw him, I thought that's not Matt Gray. But no, Dawes, you know, he did a lot for the club. He laid a lot of foundations, and he still, you know, I'm sure would be welcome back. If he came up to Gander Green Lane, and when anyone sees him elsewhere, he'll always have a smile, he'll always be chuffed at what Sutton are doing and really thrilled for him. So I can't really say too much against him in some ways. So
no, you're absolutely spot on. And I know Andy has had conversations on social media telling people that yes, without Doss, none of this would have been happening. Yes, it's not his team, it's not his he hasn't built this part of it, but without the foundations, you don't get here. Absolutely. He puts it far more eloquently than I do. So anyway, this next cheesy bit was because on one of the podcasts I did last time, I very excitedly jumped onto Amber Planet to see that the thread had loads and loads of replies, and thinking, oh, what have I done, and found out they were discussing pubs. So I then recorded this, and this is giving me great joy, considering two of you people on here are musicians, that you're going to have to listen to this absolute garbage for a couple of seconds. It's called Pub of the Week. That's amazing. Now, I have to tell you, I've asked someone to send me their pubs of the week. I did send them the music beforehand. I'm fairly certain they didn't listen to it because they did give me some information. So Mark Bravery may decide to excuse himself from doing this anymore. But he's looking forward to the Barm in Rochdale and the Ale House in Colchester. These aren't recommendations, they're just places he's looking forward to going because he hasn't been to them for a while. But that's my pubs of the week. So Mark Bravery or Amber Ailman on the forum, you can blame him for them and for having to listen to that music. Now, don't blame me for the pubs because he didn't really want to recommend them. That was me pushing for that. But it leads me into a little thought forward about Rochdale. So should we have Jenny's thoughts on Rochdale and Colchester first of all?
Yeah, well, I can do the Rochdale. I'm not going to Colchester, as it happens. That'd be only my second match, so I'm going to miss. But I'm going up to Rochdale. I'm going to drive up there and back on Saturday. It's not so bad from Swindon. It's probably a lot shorter than going from Sutton. I have no idea about pubs. Yeah, don't go in the pubs because I'm driving. Rochdale, it's funny. The Swindon supporters I know, they said afterwards, you'll beat Rochdale. We only drew with them. They're not very good, but you'll be all right. You'll beat them. Well, Swindon aren't very good at home. In fact, they've also said to me, when you come to the county ground, you'll beat us. But I don't take any notice of things like that. I'll be honest, having watched all the matches bar Portsmouth, I've been very impressed the way they have settled into the league. I felt the standard was definitely, for the most part, apart from a couple of clubs, top half of National League. I don't know anything about Rochdale, but I'm a glass half full, and I will go there with the great hopes that when, like last season, when we used to lose one, we then won the next one. If we get a draw, fantastic. If we get a win, great. There'd probably be a reaction, but it will depend actually how many knocks we got, to be quite honest. But we've got a great bench. We've got, we don't want too many more injuries sort of midfield, but apart from the players starting to, Adji boy, maybe he needs a little bit of a rest now. He's played most of the games, but we've got good replacements. So I'll be honest, I'm going out there looking for a win if we take our chances, but if we make mistakes, then I expect us to get punished. But I'm a glass half full, so I'd be happy with a draw, over the moon if we get a result, and hopefully we won't lose. But looking forward to it. New ground, and they're not that brilliant. That's Rochdale, that is.
Oh, that's famous last words, that.
Yeah, I know. Oh no, I'm going to be blamed now.
Joe, your thoughts?
Well, I can only be influenced by what Jenny said, that they're not very good. In all seriousness, like you say, I don't know much about Rochdale. They're one of those teams that's forever embedded in your mind, in the grandstand, whatever it was, front of the door. I don't know, you used to see them on the telly, even just the name pop up on the video printer. One of those names that always stick out for me, and that's about as much as I know about. And when you look at their results this year, most of them been by the odd goal. Funnily enough, I think they got a result at Port Vale. So they've got to be half decent. It feels like anyone on their day, isn't it? As you're discovering. I think you alluded to it, Jenny. And in fact, I think Matt has said it himself. It's like playing the top half of the National League every week. You can get away with some off days down in friendly conference in the National League. If we have an off day, then we might find ourselves embarrassed by saying they're not very good. But I get the feeling we'll be on it. Like you say, I think the reaction, Jenny's right, and to turn up for the first half hour, I think we've got a read on it. If we turned up for like you, glass half full, except at the end of the night.
Sure.
And yeah, I think we can get a result of it.
Lovely. And Andy?
When Rochdale came up on the fixture list, I was really actually quite excited to go to Rochdale, and I'm possibly the only football supporter in the whole of the UK who's excited about going to Rochdale. For me, one of the real things for this season is going to league grounds that have always been league grounds. Ones with really big history, clubs that have basically kind of bounced between the third tier and the fourth tier of Football League for as long as I can remember, and are really, really well established ones. And Rochdale is one of those. And Rochdale supposedly has a very good ground, quite sizable, and their fans have got a very good, positive reputation. So I think there's a lot of things there that are just going to be nice for us to experience. In terms of how they're doing, I mean, their home form's actually really poor. I think they've won 1 in 6 or something like that. So they're not doing fantastically well. Same with Colchester. Their home form is what's letting both of those down. Of course, we're now going to their places. I think I can only echo really what the other two have said. It's if we go there and we turn up and we have a good positive reaction, may well be that the defeat against Swindon actually will play in our favour, because we will be more motivated to get something on the road. It's not beyond the realms of possibility for us to get 6 points at either of these, but it really will depend on how we turn up and how we approach this. Because one reasonably long away trip within 3 days of each other is going to be quite tiring. But I presume that the club would have gone up on the Friday and will stay up on the Friday, so hopefully that'll be less of an issue. But yeah, I think there's no reason why we can't come away with all 3 points. Because it's interesting, because again, I've been to, I think the only league games I've missed this season have been Exeter and Carlisle. Two very different games where we played well and we lose one and the other. In all honesty, having seen Sutton in the Football League, National League South, Isthmian League, I'm actually quite disappointed with the standard of football that I found in the Football League is not higher than it is compared to the National League. I don't think the jump has been that big. And I think obviously we've proved that. We've pretty much taken the National League side and have got results, and we haven't lost, apart from one game, I think we haven't lost by more than one goal when we have lost. So, I mean, again, there are teams that I've seen, like Northampton, were absolutely atrocious. They were really, really poor from start to finish. Scunthorpe were no better. And I think if we played Scunthorpe in September rather than August, we would have come away with quite a significant win. It was just us getting... I think we started off the season a little bit scared. I think we're less scared now. But again, on Tuesday, I felt a little bit of that fear came back because Swindon came at us. So we just need to go there and go out on the front foot in the same way we did against Crawley. And almost knock the stuffing to start off with out of the opposition. And we could certainly come away with something from both of those games.
Yeah, and I think the Colchester game falls into that category with the, as you say, in the August, because when we were supposed to play them, we weren't actually doing that well. We were in that kind of run of, well, I say we're not doing that well, but when I'm trying to look objectively at all those games, if we had actually won every one of those games this season at the start, the other team wouldn't have been able to cry too much. So we had chances against Scunthorpe, we had chances against Salford, even Exeter. If we'd won that game, they wouldn't have been too upset. But we were playing Colchester right in the middle of that run where we weren't doing so well. We weren't getting the results, rather. And now it's completely switched, and we are definitely getting the results, obviously, the other night aside. But we're definitely getting the results. So I think it's actually played into our favour. Obviously not for anyone who's ill with COVID. Don't want any players to get that again. But I think, we should be looking for 6 points from these. That sounds massively overconfident, especially from someone like me who's one of the people that keeps going, no, 50 points, 50 points, 50 points. But I'm quietly confident this season. It's one of the very first seasons that I've gone into for a long time thinking, yeah, you know what, we're going to be okay. Especially when we kept most of the players. I was like, oh, do you know what? This is the first time in a long time that I've not panicked at the start of the season, which is obviously
I think in addition to that, I think everyone could be quite confident that we are going to be okay. Not just because we've kept the players, but the players that have been mostly used that have come in have fitted in so well. Bennett, Smith, Kizzy, they've all come in and fitted into our system, and I would say strengthened our team.
Yeah,
so I think we're going to be absolutely fine. I think we're going to get to a stage rather quickly where we can say, hey, yeah, let's not worry about 50 points.
I mean, can I just say, I've said to people, and I think everyone will agree, you don't come and play for Sutton for the money to get rich, because we're not the highest payers. And so, as some of those players coming in have said, they, especially when they played against us last season, they wanted to be a part of the spirit that they found on the pitch of the camaraderie and just the togetherness. And just the other point on the standard, I think it's that perhaps the National League has gone up a notch from the Conference South, if I can call it that, because when you look now at how many ex-league clubs are in the National League and how many what I would call total non-league clubs, which is like your Wealdstone, Kings Lynn, it is a League Three, and I think having played in the National League against your Hartlepool and Stockport and Halifax and even Wrexham, that's given us a good grounding, because I've looked and I thought, it's like playing top six every week. I've been a bit disappointed as well, but not so much so, because I think we'll be all right. We'll definitely be all right. We're not, we're going to knock on the door, which is a bit frightening, really. Especially when I mentioned that. I didn't mean Bruce to overhear it, but he just told me to shut up. On Tuesday, he walked past, and I was talking to Sol, and he overheard me, and he went, "Shut up." It's quite funny, but yeah, we'll be all right.
Funny enough, on that, I was talking to, bizarrely now, because for years of supporting Sutton, it's usually who, but it seems now at work, there's a few different people that know Sutton, and I was actually talking to him and saying that for years you read in the papers and stuff about the board being a bunch of accountants, and I've never understood that as an insult, because to me it's like, why wouldn't you want a bunch of accountants running the club? You don't get into trouble that way. But
Swindon should have had a bunch of accountants, I'll tell you that much. It's a nightmare.
So I'm going to wrap it here, guys. Yeah. Thank you very, very, very much. I will definitely badger you to come on again. I am going to mess with the format a little bit, different times, to see what works best, what doesn't work best. So it may be you come on alone or come on in twos or threes again, but I'll sort of tweak it as we go along. Anyone who's listening, if you've got any suggestions or feedback, you can send it to me on any of the socials, which is at Sutton Podcast, or on my email, which is suttonpodcast@gmail.com. You should hear this on all podcast platforms. Apparently I'm on Audible now, Amazon Music, Spotify, iTunes, Google, and one other one, I can't remember what it is, but I don't know how I've managed to do that, but somehow I am. And I will see you all soon. Thanks for listening. Please bear with us while I'm experimenting different things, and certainly accept any feedback. So once again, thank you guys. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and take care. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
United! United! United!